of Al-Hijrah. Obviously, alhamdulillah, as you can see, Muslims are enjoying themselves here in a very special spiritual atmosphere that is surrounding them in the plain of Mina after performing a great deal of the rituals of Hajj, including standing on the plain of Arafat in Arafat Day, which is the one of the main pillars of Hajj. We also witnessed, alhamdulillah, the cooperation by citizens, by residents, by also pilgrims who are coming from abroad in making this Hajj season very successful through their cooperation in following the instructions that have been given to them by the authority, and also by responding to some of the calls to make this Hajj a great worship as well as civilized behavior. I'm joined by two distinguished individuals here in the studio. On your behalf, I would like to welcome both of them to the program. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. Okay, let me start with you, please, and introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, my name is Catherine Jones, and I've been a Muslim now for 18 years. I'm from Australia.
MashaAllah. Okay, and what do you do?
Well, I do many things. I'm a mother of 5 children, which is a very important role,
MashaAllah.
and I also teach. So I teach Islamic classes to the sisters locally in my city, but also internationally online.
MashaAllah. So, brother, would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Ali Bashar. I'm originally a Muslim. I originally come from Algeria. And this is my wife, as you have heard. We've been married for the last 7 years.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
I've known her previously before. I think that's how she came to Islam.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Before she became Muslim. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Then she reverted to Islam after you get married.
I think I'll give her the privilege to answer.
Okay. Okay. Now we'll ask Sister Catherine about your story with Islam. How you reverted to Islam.
Well, as Ali's already introduced, he knew me before I was a Muslim, and showed me a video of Keith Moore and how he's connected the Quran or verses in the Quran with embryology. And I came from a science background, so that really fascinated me. But scientists generally can be quite skeptical, and so was I. So I asked him to give me a copy of the Quran, and after that he returned to his country. So I was in my city in Adelaide by myself, didn't know any Muslims, and I was reading the Quran. And my first thought was I'll look up the index and look for embryology. Of course, there isn't anything in the Quran that says embryology, so I could find the verses, and so I figured I would have to read it from the beginning. So I started reading from the beginning, and I can't even really tell you at what point in the Quran and reading it, but there was one day I just woke up and I knew that day I needed to become a Muslim. So I contacted someone to find out how I should do that.
MashaAllah. And you declared your Shahada.
Yes.
MashaAllah. Were there Islamic center or mosques at your city?
Yes, but at the time that I became a Muslim, there wasn't very much available for learning. There was the mosque, but I didn't really know anyone to feel comfortable to go there. The only halal meat that we could get, you had to go a very long way to get it. Things have changed a long time, because it's been 18 years now. Things have changed a lot.
MashaAllah. And Brother Ali, you've been to Australia, then you went back home and you came back again.
I've been in Australia for 26 years now. My journey started in 1987. So I was young then. I didn't know much about Islam, to be honest.
Though you were born Muslim.
Yes, of course. But I learned Islam in Australia, from the point of view of...
Interesting.
Yeah, you look at the law and order, and I was fascinated by that. But as I was infiltrating myself into the society, I discovered some flaws, and it reminded me of back home, muamalat,
dealings,
you know, amongst people and the family, how we dealt amongst each other, how we helped each other, you know, the family life in general, and the lifestyle with people. And I thought there was a lack of that. It's missing. It was an empty stage in my life. So, alhamdulillah, you know, I started to look up Islam, and I started my journey, although a little bit late, but alhamdulillah, I can't be grateful enough. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed me.
So you were not practicing really a
back
deen?
then, no, I didn't even know how to pray. Yeah, I didn't even know how to pray, because back home, in our household, actually in our state, we came from, I come from Bilad al-Qaba'il, Kabylia.
Okay.
There, you know, we didn't have any teachings. Nobody was teaching us Islam. We didn't even have Quran in our house. But saying that, I remember, you know, my mother rahmatullahi alayhi was praying, my grandmother rahmatullahi alayhi was praying, my father rahmatullahi alayhi was praying. A few people, although not many, I kept that image, you know, in me. And I was a believer. In my heart, I was a believer. There was no problem. You could not shake me off my belief. But in terms of practice, I didn't know much. But I'm proud to say that my journey started in Australia. In Australia, where all my children were born. And alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah.
Very interesting. Now that you have basically start practicing religion, what difference it made in your life?
Much happier. Confidence is there. I'm not a person to be intimidated, you know. I'm a people's person, you know. I like to talk, you know. Even though I started late in my life practicing Islam, I could not. Subhanallah, even if you were to give me the whole world, you know, in the detriment of me giving up my Islam, the thought of it, I could not accept it. I would not let it penetrate in my mind. And alhamdulillah, it changed my life in terms of many things, financially, spiritually. I could face anything, you know. Could face anything because of my belief, because I know everything comes from Allah, and what Allah gives, I say, alhamdulillah, I submit. So I don't think I could ever can explain how I feel, you know. It's beyond
description.
It's beyond description, yes.
Right. Okay, Sister Catherine, obviously being a woman in the West, there is a huge misconception about Islam by women. Especially sometimes certain media outlets try to exploit this by saying that Islam deprive women of their rights, deprive women of their let's say life. But what is life? But what is interesting is that we seen people who let's say revert to Islam and come to Islam, and most of them are, and especially in the West, most of them are women. So how would you attribute this?
Well, there's a big misunderstanding definitely in the West about how Islam treats women, and I can only describe it by explaining what I went through. Prior to being a teacher, I was actually in the IT industry in computing, and I was working as a team manager, and in the company I worked with first before I was a Muslim, I wasn't treated particularly well as a woman because there's mostly men in this organization. When I went back to the same company again, wearing full hijab, not niqab, just hijab, It was very early in my journey to Islam, so I didn't understand the environment was probably not the most appropriate environment for me. But however, I was working there, and I was suddenly treated a lot better than the other women. I was given a lot of respect, and the other women even started to notice it. So the fact that now the men weren't distracted by the way I looked, they actually realized that I was an intelligent human being that could have actually something to contribute to the company. So for me, actually, I think hijab has freed me. It's not oppressed me. It's the opposite to what they're thinking.
In which way, and how can you explain?
Well, especially working in the IT industry.
Do you still work in the industry?
No, I left that industry because I grew in my deen, I grew in my understanding, and I understood it wasn't the right environment for me. So I left that. But this was, early in my Islam, before I had that knowledge. And before I was a Muslim, I was taken advantage of as a woman in the IT industry. I was, because of my attractive look, I was used kind of by the management to appeal to other management to get the business into the company. And I feel that women are used a lot in that way for attracting business, for selling, for this sort of thing. And so I wasn't there because I had a degree in information technology. I wasn't there because I could contribute. I was there because of the way I looked. And that's not okay. That's treating me like an object or something that you can use. After I became a Muslim, alhamdulillah, I was treated very differently. In fact, the manager of the company that treated me that way, when he found out I had become a Muslim, he said to me, finding out that you've become a Muslim to me is like finding out my son has become a heroin addict. This was their attitude.
Wow.
Subhanallah.
Subhanallah. That's what I would say outrageous statement.
Absolutely. So I left that company.
Interesting. Then you start working on your own.
I started, so after I left that company, I went back to a company I had worked with before, and that's where I saw the difference. I was working with exactly the same people, and I was treated in a very, very different manner, with a lot more respect and regard. Sometimes, in a meeting, if they were talking in a way that's not really polite, they would remember I was in the room and they would apologize. And the other women would say, why do you not worry when we're in the room and you say these things? So I got a different treatment, much more respect. But then I left the IT industry and have tried my best to only work with women and in environments that are much more appropriate Islamically.
Okay, mashallah. Now, brother, I will come back to Sister Catherine, but Brother Ali, this is not your first time performing Hajj.
By the grace of Allah, this is my second time.
MashaAllah. When was the first time?
First time was back February 2004.
That's quite sometimes.
Yes, quite sometimes. I'm actually very impressed by the changes that I've come to witness, particularly with the Jamarat.
It's behind us.
Yeah, particularly with that. And this morning we went for the first throwing the peoples, because they have there is an entrance, and the entrance, once you enter, you come out from the exit. That in itself has helped a lot of the pilgrims, has taken so much burden and so much things, not just for the pilgrims, and I take it also for the authorities, make it so easy to allow a flow of traffic. For that, alhamdulillah, I'm very pleased, and many people were so happy to find out that they have achieved this, and it's a success, alhamdulillah, by the will of Allah.
Alhamdulillah. And how did you feel spiritually? You mentioned before the program that you found out some Muslims from different walks of life.
If I can give myself the privilege to say, you have to be an outsider to know the value of being a resident in the Holy Land. And only the ones that don't live and reside in it know its true value. Because we're here, we're happy, we're overwhelmed. But said in the meantime by the thought that we will be leaving soon. And we follow it with the hope that Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us another journey to come back. These three emotions, you cannot...
So mixed emotions.
I speak for myself, I think you cannot separate those three emotions, you know. That's how deep it is. And you know, you cannot cry enough. The tears that flow from your eyes can only express gratitude to Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what else can I say? It's beyond
description. Alhamdulillah. Sister Catherine, same thing to you. I mean, how did you find the experience of Hajj?
It's very hard to even find words. When you're back home, you're busy with children, busy with activities, you really don't stop and really connect with Allah, and you come here and it's just that focus, doing the tawaf. I can't even find the words to explain it. At Arafat, making dua, it's the most amazing experience, and I just feel my heart not wanting to leave. Because I know you go back to your way of life, and it's going to be that battle again to find that connection with Allah, to feel that peace that you feel here. You know, it's something so special.
Interesting. Now, Sister Catherine, I understand that you're also very active in maybe spreading the message of Islam among Australians, indigenous Australians. So can you share with us this experience and how you go about doing it?
In a number of ways. I've come to realize that a lot of the struggles that converts have, but not even just converts, generally the Muslim women, is they might learn what they can about Islam, but they find it hard how to actually implement that into their life. So I try and focus my classes, actually I try and make them more like workshops than classes, on how to actually implement Islam into their lives, rather than just the theory that, you know, you should do this, you shouldn't do that, and this is how, you know, we believe in Allah. I include all of that, but my real important message is, how do we incorporate that into our lives? How do we live Islam? That's my key focus.
Mashallah. But I mean, obviously, do you go out to talk to people about Islam, and how would you do it? In official meetings, and just go chatting with people online?
In a variety of ways. I think the most powerful way is just talking to people in general interactions when you see them, showing them that that we're actually very friendly people, someone you can ask questions of. I do occasionally do speeches at Islamic awareness weeks and those sorts of things that are held in my city, and I do also do classes at Yusuf Esti's website, so teaching sisters, but we also have a lot of non-Muslim women that come along interested to learn about Islam to those classes as well. So Chat Islam is very much a website that's for spreading Islam to Muslims and non-Muslims.
MashaAllah. Now, sister, how challenging trying to explain Islam, especially in a time where sometimes media have some sort of bias against this religion, and to what extent we can change this by maybe being active in the media as well, and which way you think we can do that?
Yeah, I think finding a sense of humor is the best way to combat them. I've found that if you can find a good humorous response to often a question where they're not really actually interested in the answer, but they're trying very hard to bring you down, that often can defuse the situation, and then you might have the opportunity to really tell them something about Islam. It's much harder as a woman as far as getting involved in the media. I'm very conscious of being involved in media type of things. But on a personal level, when I meet people, I think humour is really important, that we need to be very friendly and connecting with people so that they actually realise that we're human beings as well.
Indeed. Now, Brother Ali, you've been, obviously in the Western Australia. We have a big community in Australia where big population influx of immigrants who are coming in Australia, to New Zealand. Can you maybe share with us your thoughts as of the community, and what are some of the main characteristics of such community, and their also interaction with the, let's say, native and indigenous people?
I think during the last 15 years, up to date, we have seen a growth of Muslims in numbers. This is also due to a new wave of migrants that have come to Australia since the last, say, 7 years. And in terms of interaction within the society, it differs depending on which community you're talking about. Like we have the Arab Lebanese community, I think, which is the greatest in number, and they've been there for a while. Alhamdulillah, the awareness, Islamic awareness, has opened its wings, and people are starting to come to the Islamic centers and the masjids, and they have this sense of willingness to learn, although it is not as